I haven't written a story in a long time. So what happens now? It's a whole new world since the pandemic, and we're all out and about again. What story will I connect to today? And where's my muse? Hello? I need you. Trying my best to find a portal and can't tell if you'll open the door. Mother, father, horse, childhood, where are you? Muse. What if I just write anything and see where it goes? Okay, here it is, letting go and going in. Once upon a time there was an elephant who never forgot anything, even though it pained him greatly to remember. Boehm, the little elephant, was burdened by memories of early elephanthood, when he never seemed to have a friend, and his relationship with the herd who shunned him was questionable. He loved his mom, though, who struggled to help him, until one day Boehm the elephant found his true and lifelong friend in another land far away. By the way, on a different subject, did you know that quantum physics teaches us electrons behave differently when observed than when they're not being observed? Crazy, right? I learned this on YouTube. Where does that leave us? For one thing, we have that in common with electrons, as we too behave differently when we know we're being watched. But how do the electrons know? Theorist David Bohm discovered this before becoming ostracized by envious peers who refused to read his book, a recollection which must have wounded him greatly over his years of exile from the U.S. His book eventually became widely acclaimed, and I won't go into how quantum physicist David Bohm and Krishnamurti, spiritual teacher and Indian philosopher, connected over electrons, but soon they became lifelong friends. As a kid, I always knew there was something out there, and the world was filled with mystery. In college, my new best friend, Frank Tosetti, lived in a haunted house. We all humored him at the local gay bar where we met, and we really wanted to believe his riveting stories of hearing children racing up and down a long-ago departed staircase and obliterated second floor, once hovering over the remains of lavish deco decor. According to Frank's research reports, the family once living there met with an apparent tragic end. The night we met at the bar, Frank sat on a divan, grieving the loss of his missing sock, taken by the ghosts who planned to possess him, he said, and he appeared genuinely shaken. But every year, Frank hosted a death and resurrection costume party, where his skinny friend Joe, dressed as Sister Dominique the nun, was laid to rest in a walnut coffin elaborately lined with white satin. Frank meticulously crafted the whole thing, curved glass lid and all, salvaged from an old pinball machine. I wonder, though, wouldn't this sort of thing stir things up with the ghosts, as if Frank was asking for it? At midnight, Sister Dominique would resurrect, after lying in the coffin under glass for hours, a sign for all grieving partygoers to launch into a high-spirited bacchanal. One morning at 1 a.m., a terrified Frank called me. I was awake at my dorm, as we tended to be all night in those days, and on this night Frank was being terrorized by ghosts, a real and true haunting. He said, "Come over, please," and I thought, how fun, be right there. But as soon as Frank opened the door, I peered in and said, "Come outside." Dressed in an ascot and lounging robe, he stood within a haze of darting sparks, tiny fleeting comets, arcing and vanishing into the cosmos. A frigid current penetrated the threshold where I'd poised myself to run the other way, hopefully followed by Frank. He said, "I can't, they'll get me." And who knows why, but I stepped inside, and immediately knew it was true what he said. The ghosts would get me too if I tried to run. We surrendered to the living room couch, where my teeth chattered a pointless Morse code as we bore the racket coming from the kitchen, now doubled in intensity. All bunched up, I said, "I can't take it anymore. Let's go to the kitchen," which turned out to be a mistake. The kitchen exited into a pitch-black yard, visible through the vast picture windows, much more ominous than the living room's blue velvet chaise and vases flanked by angels. Still a scary area under the circumstances, but a whole different universe than the kitchen, with its yard situation looking like the river Styx to Hades. I didn't see a lake, but you couldn't tell what was hidden in the infinite void to Hal. Maybe burial pits waiting to swallow us up. As the clamor from the ghost resumed in the living room, we managed to make our way back to the couch, when suddenly 3 glowing mists appeared within the gap between the pocket doors, causing my teeth to clank like castanets. No wonder my dentist asked if I grind my teeth at night. I think the whole thing with my teeth happened back then. As the phantoms glided toward us, I knew we were doomed. Or maybe just Frank, because they took one of his socks. They approached, then disappeared. But they were right in front of us, which I knew because my hand warmed over, and as I said to Frank, "They're holding my hand," Frank said they were holding his hand too. It took me years to realize these weren't the ghosts who'd messed with us. These were a trinity of masters come to our rescue. 4, if you count Elijah.